If you're new to DaVinci Resolve or you're switching from a different editing software to DaVinci Resolve, then you're right where I was about a year ago when I switched from Adobe Premiere Pro fully to DaVinci Resolve. I made a video before talking about the reason why I changed and giving a detail as to the things that I saw in DaVinci Resolve that made me make that full-on switch. You can just check the video up here. But that is not what we're talking about today. Today in this video, I am going to introduce you to DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to take you through step by step, showing you, just walking you around the interface of DaVinci Resolve. So this is basically an introduction to DaVinci Resolve, or should we call it DaVinci Resolve 101. Before we get into the software, I have to first of all establish with you that DaVinci Resolve is actually not hard. If you're not used to the interface or you're coming from an entirely different interface, it might look completely different from what you know before or somehow different. There might be similarities here and there, but it is not the same as whatever it is you've been using. So it might get confusing and look sort of cumbersome at the initial stages. But if you really get into the software, you realize that it has even a simpler interface than a lot of other editing softwares. In fact, I prefer the interface of DaVinci Resolve to the interface of Adobe Premiere Pro by far. So, DaVinci Resolve is not complex. It is actually very easy. That said, my name is Okpeyande. I'm a filmmaker, voiceover artist, and an adventurous creative. I started my journey into filmmaking a couple of years ago, say about 10 years ago. And through the years, I have learned a whole lot as an independent filmmaker, and I've worked with a couple of brands and organizations, both internationally and locally here in Nigeria, so that my journey as a filmmaker has been an impactful one, filled with a lot of thrills, a lot of lessons, a lot of mistakes, and of course, a lot of corrections. These lessons are what I'm going to be sharing with you on this channel. Let's just say Film Avenue is your film school away from film school. All right, enough about me. Let's get into the software, and let me show you the interface of DaVinci Resolve. When you open the software, the first thing you're going to meet is this page here. It's your home page, sort of. And this is where you're going to have a catalog of all of the videos you've edited. And so if you're opening the software for the first time, don't expect to see all of these things you're seeing on my own screen in yours, because you've not edited any videos with it. But if you have, all your videos you ever edit with DaVinci Resolve will all have a thumbnail here that you can just click on and go right into it, okay? So, for this video, what we're going to do is we're just going to click on create new project so that we'll enter into the software and we can see what it has for us. We'll title this DaVinci 101. Right? Good. All right, so we're in the software now. Coming into the software, if you're opening for the first time, the software is going to start from what is called the import page. Okay, the media page is also known as the import page. Now, looking at this interface, you might immediately begin to feel overwhelmed, even though there's nothing here just yet, but at least it looks different from Adobe Premiere Pro, from Final Cut, to any other one that you've been using, right? But DaVinci Resolve has something unique about the interface that I love so much, and that is the fact that it is an editing software that uses a left to right editing process, left to right, which means that you basically start your editing from the left, progress all the way to the end on the right. And that brings us to the first page. Now, when you move the cursor down here, you come here, you see the media page. This is the media page. This is where you start your editing from. Now, on this media page, what you do is you import your footages. Whatever your footage is, your audio, everything you want to work with, you can import them using this import page. Using this media page rather. You can see my drive showing here. So whatever video or whatever sound I want to use, I could just follow this directory, import them, import an entire folder, import individual clips, and they'll all just come up here. And once I've imported my video, what's the next thing? I move to the next stage of my editing, which is the next page here. The next page is the cut page. You click it, and here you have all the videos that you already imported. If I had imported a couple of videos, you see them all appear here. What you're going to do on this page is you're going to now begin to assemble the shots, the cuts, okay? You're going to bring all of those videos in here and trim them the way you want them to appear on the timeline. This is where you do the cutting of your videos. Then after that, you move to the edit page. Now on the edit page is where you do all of the major work on the timeline. You put your text, your effects, you put virtually what editing basically is, everything that it is, you're going to do it in the edit page. So on the edit page here, you have your toolbox. Under your toolbox, you have your video transitions, audio transitions, titles, generators, effects, open effects, filters. You have your filters, you have your generators, which are just plugins that you download, third-party plugins, okay? Mine here, you see my motion array plugins here. And then, of course, you have audio effects, Fairlight effects, AU effects, favorites, and all of that. And then when you come to the top right here, quick export, to quickly export, maybe if you're exporting proxy files or you want to export directly from here without going to the delivery page, you can just do that here. Then you have a mixer panel here. You have the metadata of your videos. You have your inspector, which is basically like what you have in Premiere Pro. Like in Premiere Pro, it is called effect settings or something. Yes, effect settings. So that's what the inspector is where you do you alter all of the effects you're putting. You have all the information for the effects and you can just touch them here. Okay. Then of course, when you click on the inspector, you have video, which will show you all the video properties like the scale and all of that. And then you have the audio, your audio effects and audio levels, all of that here. You have effects. When you place an effect on your clip, this is where you come to come and adjust the effect and play with it. That is preliminary effects now, that is to say, because we're going to the real effects after now. And then you have transitions and you have image file like that. So basically all of these drop downs under inspector to touch the individual things that are in your video. Okay, so that's basically what the edit page is about. Edit page is where you come to do your full-on editing. From the edit page, you move straight to Fusion, the Fusion page. And the Fusion page is DaVinci Resolve's inclusivity defined. I say that because what they did with the Fusion page was try to integrate something like Adobe After Effects within the software. So that unlike Adobe Premiere Pro, where you have to go out of the software or link the Adobe After Effects with your Premiere Pro composition or your Premiere Pro project rather, you link it up, do your effects in Adobe After Effects, and then it translates into the Adobe Premiere Pro. Here, Fusion gives you that. The amount of effects you can do with Fusion are immeasurable. As a matter of fact, I have not even completely grasped the Fusion page just yet. I'm still learning every day this Fusion page because it is very, very rich. You can do all your tracking, what you do, the rotoscoping you do in Adobe After Effects, you can do virtually all of that in the Fusion page. Okay? So basically the Fusion page is like the effects headquarters, okay, of DaVinci Resolve. From the Fusion page, the next page is the boss of them all, the color page. Now this is where the magic happens. Now this is like my favorite page of all, right? Because DaVinci Resolve is a beast when it comes to color grading. It's exciting to use. It can get very tiring sometimes because a lot of the things that you have to work with are manual, but it just gives you that freedom to be expressive. It's like an open canvas with all the necessary brushes and different strokes of brushes that you need and the different colors of paint and whatnot. And it just tells you, all right, paint away. Now, if you're an artist, that is exciting to you. But if you're not an artist, you think it is actually punishment because you would prefer something easy. Just give me something easy. Why not just make the grading for me and let me just rest? Okay. But if you're an artist and you like to explore, DaVinci Resolve will be very exciting to you, especially this color wheel. So let me just brush through the color wheel. First, here you have the gallery. Okay, the gallery is basically like where you have your saved looks. Like when you finish grading a particular shot, you can actually save it. Okay, you can copy the grade and keep it so you can use later on. Isn't that exciting? So that's basically what the gallery is about. Then you have the lookup tables, the LUTs, all the different LUTs that are inbuilt in the software are here. You have your AC slots, your ARRI slots, Astro Design, Blackmagic Design. You have your DCI, your DJI, Film Looks, HDR, HDRST, Olympus, Panasonic, Red, Sony, VFXIO. I mean, they basically just covered all of the different color science that there are with cameras, created the default lots for all of those different cameras, and just kept them here for you. So if you want to work with a lot, you basically just have them here, especially Film Looks. I mean, look at them. From Kodak to Fuji, they're here. Okay, so it's exciting. I like it. Although I don't use lots a lot, but I like it. I like that the option is there for me anytime I feel like using it. Then, of course, this clips tab here, if you toggle it on, whatever you're grading, you'll be having thumbnails of them show on this line here like that. If you toggle these clips on, if you toggle it up, you see that this comes down. If you toggle it off, you see that this comes down. But if it's on, you have it here like this. So that's just it. Now then on the right here, we have quick export again. Then you have the timeline. You can switch on and off the timeline. If you don't want the timeline to show, you want more space, you can just toggle it on and off here. Then of course your nodes, you can toggle on and off your nodes here. Now nodes are the more exciting part of color grading that we're going to talk about later on when I begin to show you how to grade with DaVinci Resolve. Okay, but nodes are basically to DaVinci Resolve what adjustment layers are to Adobe Premiere Pro. So you color grade on nodes. Okay, it's a different system from what the adjustment layer is, but it's not complex, it's not hard, especially for grading. It can be a bit tricky when it comes to the Fusion page, but for grading, it's not that hard to grasp. Then you have your effects. Here you have all of the effects, the default effects that you can work with in your grade. You have everything here, okay? And this is just to toggle full screen and whatnot. Then of course, we come down here. The first here is your camera raw. Okay, so if your footage is a raw footage, this is where you're going to come to decode it so that the software can, bring out the video out of the raw footage. Okay, so this is where you come to do all of that, put all of the information that is needed, that is required for the software to decode it. And then from there you move to, your color match. So here you just put all of the information of the lights you see the color temperature and whatnot. You just input all of that here and you click on match, and then the software will try to match the information you've given it with the footage on your timeline. Okay, then from there you move to your color wheels. Now, your color wheels is basically where you do a lot of the touch-up. This is where you affect your lift, gamma, gain, and offset. Now, the lift affects the dark parts of the image, the gamma affects the midtones, the gain affects the highlights and the bright parts of the image, and the offset affects the general image together, okay? So we're going to get into details of all of these when we begin to grade. So just relax. This video, we're just doing a rundown of what the software looks like so that you're not confused when you open it, right? So you have your temperature up here, you have your tint, you have your contrast, you have your pivots, you have your mid detail. Up here you have your color wheels, you have your color bars, your log wheels. All of that are things that we're going to touch. Then down here, you have your color boost, shadows, highlights, saturation, hue, luma mixer, like that. And then on this side here, you have all of these different scopes that you're going to be working with. You have your parade, waveform, vector scope, histogram, chromaticity. All of them are going to be essential in measuring the colors in your image and the bright points, the shadow points in your image. You're going to need all of these scopes and graphs to help you better understand that, okay? Because your eye is not as perfect as you think. This software understands these things a lot better than you might be able to, okay? So that's what this is for. Then up here we have again the HDR. All of these wheels affect the high dynamic range, the HDR of the video. And then here we have the RGB mixer. Yeah, the RGB mixer to mix the amount of red, green, and blue in your image. If you want to use it, that's basically what it's used for. And then you have your motion effects. Under this motion effects is where we do what is called noise reduction. Okay, I'll show you that later, but for now, let's keep going. Then you have your curves, all of your curves for touching your highlights and shadows and all of those, your saturation, your hue, and all of that. This is where you have all of that under your curves. Okay, for example, you have, this is like the main curve now. For example, you have your hue versus hue, your hue versus saturation, your hue versus luminance, your luminance versus saturation, all the way like that. We'll go into details later. Then of course here you have your color slice. Okay, the color slice basically just is a pick of all of the colors, possible colors within your shot. Okay, so with the color slice, you can work with individual colors that are in the shot with all of these individual wheels. Now, for skin tone, for example, skin tone sits at a particular place, or is meant to sit at a particular place. So the software, some of the times, or most of the times, is able to pick where the skin tone is. So you can use this wheel to actually play with your skin tones. Then, when you move from the color slice, you go to the color wrapper. From the color wrapper, you go to the qualifier. And then from the qualifier, you have your window. This is where you do your masking. Okay, for example, if I want to touch just my face and I don't want what I want to do to affect the other parts of my body, this is where I'm going to do that. I'm going to mask just that part and then move to the next one, which is the tracker. After masking, you track so that whatever you do will follow the video through. So this is where you track in the grading panel or the grading page. And then of course you have the magic mask. Yeah. And then magic mask is automatic masking basically. And then you have your blur, and then you have your key. And after your key, you have the sizing. You have 3D last. Okay? So that's that on the color page. From the color page, we will now move to what is called Fairlight. Fairlight is the audio studio of DaVinci Resolve. Now just look at this. This is not the full Fairlight showing just yet, okay? When we go into editing, you're going to see the full panel. When the full panel comes on, you'll be dazed by what DaVinci Resolve actually did here. Here, you have all of your effects, okay? You have all the effects that you can work with in your Fairlight studio. You have all the effects here. And then you have your controls here. As many audios as you lay on different audio channels on your timeline, you're going to have controls for them here. If you have 12 audios layered on individual channels, you're going to have 12 controls here for each of those individual channels. Okay, so that's essentially what the Fairlight is. It is your audio studio. Okay, next down here you have the delivery. Now, this is the final place. The deliver page is a final juncture. This is where you deliver your project. And here you have a plethora of options to select from, to choose from as to what format you want your video to render in. You have custom export where you choose basically everything from start to finish. You have you have H.264, H.264 Hyperdeck, and then H.265. You have ProRes, you have YouTube, you have Vimeo 1080p, TikTok, presentations, Dropbox, Replay, IMF Generic, Final Cut, Premiere Pro. Like this Final Cut and Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro XML, for example, is when you're grading a project from Adobe Premiere Pro in DaVinci Resolve. After grading it, you export as a Premiere Pro XML file so that you just take the project back to Adobe Premiere Pro to finish up, okay? That's what I was doing before till I got tired of how much space it was taking and I dumped Adobe Premiere Pro. Sad. Well then, you move. Next one, you have audio only. That's if you want to export just the audio in your video. And then you have Avid. Of course, you can also export for Avid so that someone who's editing with Avid, or if you're editing with Avid and then you moved to DaVinci Resolve to grade, you can just export back to Avid and continue your editing. And then of course, Pro Tools, right? So basically, this is what the interface of DaVinci Resolve is. Now up here you have, of course, your DaVinci Resolve. You have about DaVinci preference. Preference is basically the settings bar where you have all of these individual settings that you can do in the software. So this is your preferences, your settings, and then your file. Everything that relates with your files are here, and then your edits. Undo history, of course, all the things that all the tools you need for your edit, you can just touch them here. Trim, timeline, clip, mark, view, playback. All of the options for your playback are right here for you to work with. Options for Fusion, your Fusion tab, are right here. Options for your color grading tab, options for Fairlight, and then workspace, basically options for the workspace you're working with. If you want to change it, if you want a different workspace, or if you want to alter it, customize it, yeah. And then help, when you need help, yeah. So that's that. Well, down here also you have a wheel here. When you click on this wheel, it will bring out your project settings. Okay, this is your project settings. This is where you easily just toggle on vertical and horizontal video. It's so easy, just as easy as a click, you know? Yeah, so that's basically that. So yes, that is what the interface of DaVinci Resolve looks like. It's not entirely as complex as you may think. Subsequently, I'm going to make videos showing you how to edit in DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to show you step by step, take you through on how you can edit with DaVinci Resolve, grade with DaVinci Resolve, and mix your audio with DaVinci Resolve excellently well. Okay? Well, that's all for this video. Until the next video, don't forget to continue to learn, create, until you become.